Charlotte Kemp, wonderful to have you on a discussion around the virtual chapter, or the origin of it, for the Professional Speakers Association in Southern Africa. So thanks so much for your time today. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you very much. The virtual chapter is very close to my heart, which is what we'll explore shortly. And I'm delighted to see that it is in your hands right now, and fresh ideas always invigorate good products and services. So yeah, I think it's going to serve a lot of people really well.
Well, that's brilliant. Yes, it's an honor and privilege that I'm the virtual chapter president for the PSASA and absolutely loving it. And the big reason for me wanting to connect with you today is to pull on that the history of it, the part of it, the vision of where the virtual chapter came in as a very interestingly integral time, although at the moment, at that point, it was unknown. But then you are a futurist, so you knew something was coming. And I'm going to talk about 2019 when you tell me that the virtual chapter first became an official part of the whole PSASA. Tell me about that story back then.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I am a futurist and an amateur time traveler. So I think sometimes I can anticipate things that will be important in the future. And I'll start with when it became official, and it was. I'm really bad with time, which is really bad for a futurist. But it was 2018 or 2019 conference. It became the official chapter, and that's important because in terms of PSASA's constitution, we have lots of working groups and masterminds and activities. But an actual chapter with a chapter president who sits on the PSA Exco, that is an AGM. Voting situation, so somebody has to make it formal. And Ian Hatton and I had been the kind of undercover behind the scenes presidents of the virtual chapter, and we took care of it until it became formal, and then we could actually move that into something that was represented on the Exco and had a whole lot of serious presence and implications for the rest of the membership and association of PSA.
No, that's fantastic. And being the fact that this was 2018 going into 2019, how much of an integral part of the whole PSASA maintaining its values and its vision and connectivity actually played out coming 2020?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to get in a moment to kind of look at our very, very first experiments in terms of doing anything virtual, which was really interesting. But when we'd experimented with a whole lot of virtual things, and then we got to the point of saying this chapter now needs to be something formal, I had very intentionally started working with Ian Hatton because Ian's a leadership expert. His branding is about Morpheus, who releases Neo to do amazing things, and he just really is amazing in terms of giving leaders the capacity, the space, the vision to go and do the thing that they need to do. Right. But his work has really been worked out online for years. He has been training leaders and managers of teams. Let me say that. Leaders and managers of virtual teams. He's been training them virtually how to do that for a decade before the virtual chapter, and the virtual chapter before the COVID pandemics and lockdowns, when we all needed that skill. So Ian brought that wealth of practical experience and insight to allow us to do this, so we can engage properly in the virtual chapter, and we can check in with each other. And there's different roles sometimes that played in terms of one person being MC, one person speaking, somebody doing the tech, and somebody taking care of the people in the room in case there's a question or an emotion or a technical problem. And just to have all those different roles play out was just absolutely amazing. Then when PSASA, like all our other speaker associations, suddenly had to go online, for us it was that we've got the skill set, we've practiced 48 hours, everything's online. Our only problem during COVID was that we had too much to offer. And people were going, wow, there's so much stuff that we can do here. I kept saying to people, this is a buffet, a menu. You don't eat everything. Choose the things you want to eat. And after, when we get back to normal, some of these things will settle down. But we didn't want to just kind of merge everything into one meeting, because there were still those distinct geographic chapters and relationships and responsibilities. But the virtual chapter just had made sure we had this entire skill set across PSA.
No, that's absolutely amazing, and bringing in Ian's expertise. And I've had the privilege of hearing him speak a number of times in person and virtually. I could see how that played out to really giving a focused intention. So let's have a look at that for a moment of what the intention is behind the virtual chapter, especially now where there's such a hybrid environment where now online is a norm and in person's a norm. So where's that all fit in now with the virtual chapter?
I think I think for any organization and all of our speaker associations, being able to cater to people online, in person, and hybrid is a really important skill set. And I often say when I'm coaching speakers, I'm saying you as a speaker need to find your unique particular skill set and really work on that. But if you're a professional speaker, you need to know how to do other things. So you may be a great keynoter, but you need to know how to be an MC, how to run a workshop, how to facilitate. You need to have the range of skills, but you're going to lean into what is right for you. So all of us, associations and leaders, we need to know how to run these online, hybrid, and in-person meetings. But why we particularly focused on it with PSA Southern Africa is because we represent Southern Africa. There's a whole lot of countries around us, and South Africa itself is a huge place, and we had 4 chapters: Cape Town, Durban, Joburg, Pretoria. So what about people in Bloemfontein and Zimbabwe and Botswana and, Mpumalanga? And, we're not catering to them. All the people in the Eastern Cape, all the people down the coast in Durban. So we needed to cater to them. So that was one of the initial reasons of starting something that would say to people, you're important. You're a member of this community and hopefully a member of this association. And we're catering to you, even though we don't have 10 people or 15 people in East London to have a chapter, you're still part of something. So that was one of the demographics of people we were looking at. And it meant a lot. We've had some amazing conversations of people joining us from different places and saying they feel such a part of PSASA because of the virtual chapter, even though they hadn't met any of us in person. And when you get to a conference and you see somebody for the first time in person, it's lovely. It's lovely.
Oh, yes.
There is one other demographic, and I don't know that we focus on it enough, but it is a very important demographic, and that's all the people who, for any physical restrictions, can't get to a physical meeting. So we have people who are unsighted. We've got people who can't travel. We've got people who can't travel at night. We've got people in wheelchairs. And there's a lot of mobility things that we need to consider when we have an in-person meeting. And that has been really interesting, having our members say to us, we have to learn how to make things accessible to them, because that's something that we need to know as an organization, but also as speakers and speaking professionals, we need to know how to make that accessible to the audience. So people who have very visual presentations need to find out how to make that still appropriate to somebody who's blind in the audience. But when we have an online meeting, those people have another option of being able to engage in this meeting rather than having to, or in addition to it, but rather than having to get to an actual physical meeting, they can still engage. So it really caters to 2 very important groups of people that we want to have their voice and their participation in our association. And that's what the virtual chapter's for.
That's fantastic. So we're not only dealing with people who are living in outlying areas apart from the main 4 areas, but also those who are living in the main hubs, but don't have the capacity to drive to meetings. They're all in the evening. Maybe somebody's concerned about driving on some of the busy roads, not so much fun at night on their own, perhaps, or they even got a restriction for movement for whatever reason, that they can still be part of a community. Yeah. And so that's a crucial one. Let's have I'd like to dig a little bit on the Southern Africa part of it, and where the virtual chapter can fit into speakers outside of South Africa, because it's not the PSA of South Africa, it's Southern Africa, and how the virtual chapter can be used as sort of the stepping stone for them to actually beginning their own chapters in outlying countries.
Marvelous. So the ancient history of PSASA was that it used to be called NSASA, the National Speakers Association of South Africa. And
Ah,
our past presidents, way back in the midst of time, changed that to Professional Speakers of Southern Africa, and created that intention for us to reach out and cater to speakers in this area. Our efforts to do so have waxed and waned over the
mhm.
years. We've had some projects, we've done some things intentionally. It is really challenging though, and I'm working on this from another perspective, from the Global Speakers Federation as well. The experience that I have there, I'm past president now of GSF, but the experience there of seeing what it takes to start an association in a part of the world. So you've got a whole lot of people who go, we want this, but to get it started, to get it organized, to have volunteers volunteer their, not just their time and their intelligence, but their heart into
Very much.
creating something and holding the space for it to grow and mature to a place where it is viable. And that's a really, really long process. So from the Global Speakers Federation level, when we deal with associations like that around the world, we got things in place to just take care of the people who are taking care of that process. The vision we had with PSA Southern Africa was to do kind of a small version of that. So this is the theory in my mind, and it's never going to be neat. But the idea would be, and we'll talk about Botswana because we've invested a lot of time and relationships in connecting with the speakers in Botswana. But we find the speakers in Botswana, we take care of them, we take them seriously as professional speakers, even if they're still aspiring speakers, even if they've just got the heart and passion for this, but they're not yet plugged into the resources that we have in Johannesburg, in Cape Town. So they don't know all the ins and outs and how the whole environment works, but they have a heart for this. So we connect with them, and that's why we used to have a lot of masterminds in PSA. I'm not quite sure how viable they are at the moment, how vibrant, but you kind of connect them to the virtual chapter.
Mhm.
They can attend, they can set up their own mastermind, and masterminds don't need any kind of, AGM voting or anything like that. So anybody can set up a mastermind. But then they can be part of the virtual chapter. They can join the virtual chapter. Then they see themselves as part of PSASA, and they're being taken seriously. But they and a couple of friends are connecting in this mastermind, and they're growing and learning and
Mm.
developing. And then we want to pull more and more people from Botswana into the virtual chapter until one day it looks like the virtual chapter is going, wow, we're really big. And there's a whole bunch of people here from Botswana. Why don't you guys set up your own chapter? And then you kind of like birth, you know,
Yes.
this new chapter in Botswana, who is a chapter of PSASA. So it's based in Gaborone, and they're there, but they're part of PSA Southern Africa. And we can do the same thing in the other countries as well. And then one day, who knows, as things change in Africa, because it's a really vibrant continent with so many amazing things going on, one day Botswana speakers come to PSAS and go, we're so grateful that you've taken care of us, that we've been part of you, that, our chapter was created, by, the AGM and the voting. So it's a legitimate chapter, but we're big enough now and we want to be an association of our own.
Right.
And then PSA gives birth to the Botswana Speakers Association. And that would be the progression. It works really nicely in my mind, but this is a long-term thing.
Yes.
One of the mistakes we make is when people are too ambitious and they rush too quickly to try and set up a chapter or to try and set up an association without having everything in place, because then we'll burn out leaders so quickly.
Mm.
And if you burn out people, you're left with other people who really want this to happen, but they don't have the experience or the connections or the relationships, and they don't know how to, and then it will fail. So I'm like all for this is like a really, really long process, and we're here for the long haul with
No,
that.
that's amazing. No, that's brilliant. So we've covered from the origin of the virtual chapter back to 2018, 2019, then the value of it during the pandemic period, and where you're seeing that there's value not only within South Africa, but Southern Africa. So one last question for you. If you were me right now in the virtual chapter as the chapter president, what is one thing that you would like to see put into place within this whole vision of what you're speaking about, that you're sharing so passionately? I can see it's a massive passion of yours. This not only speaking, but the PSASA itself. What's sort of a direction or something that you'd say, Tim, have a look at this?
Tim, there are lots of good qualities and things that go into being a chapter president. And somebody can be good at getting people into the room, or inviting the right kind of speakers who have the right message. So not just filling up, the schedule of speakers, but finding the right speaker to meet the need of the people who are there, taking care of the people in the chapter. And I don't know you well enough to know what your qualities are to be able to say this is what I think you should do. But if I was doing this again, and I'm not putting my hand up because I need a long-term break from my association leadership responsibilities for a while. But what I found most important was this. As president, I took care of my team, and my team took care of people. And I made sure that there were the right people on the team to do various things. So although Ian was very good at all the technical stuff and knew how to do all these things, his best quality was being able to hold space. And that was a phrase that I learned from him, which I just found to be so incredible, holding space for people to be in the room without there being pressure on them. And I'll explain that in a moment, but also holding space long-term for people to develop. So because we're volunteer leaders and sometimes we only engage with people like, once a month, you can see somebody doing something in the background. But as a leader, if you wanted to nurture that, you would want to be in contact with that person a little bit more to really see what their journey is like, and just to give them that encouragement every now and then to be able to evolve into something. Because the people who are just sitting in the back of the virtual room at the moment can one day be sitting at the front of the virtual room, and then one day they could be chapter president. And we can't dismiss them because they're at the back of the room right now. And when I talk about the back of the room, I'm talking about people who sneak into the back of a room because they want to be a professional speaker, but how audacious that they should think that they could be that.
Right. Yes.
We've all thought that. We've all started at some point going, I'd like to do this. And then you go like, wow, it's an audacious thing. But there are people sitting there, and that's why the virtual chapter is so helpful. And I don't know what the rules are now, but Ian and I really wanted it that people could attend the virtual chapter without being a member of PSA, and they could attend as long as they wanted. So there was this grace of allowing somebody there. So say, for example, there's a really young, intelligent young person in Johannesburg with so much potential, and they really want to be a professional speaker, but they cannot personally risk at the moment walking into a PSASA meeting in Johannesburg and Sandton, because that would just be a little bit too much for them. So why can't they come to the virtual chapter and just sit there quietly with their camera off, and the next month with their camera on, and the next month ask a question, and then the next month connect with somebody, and the next month go to Johannesburg, and the next month join the association? That we need to give place to people to have that experience. And for me and Ian, that was really important that we got our core leaders, we got the people who hold everything together, and we got our exco, and we got the chapter presidents, and we got the engaged members, and we got the people who pay their membership and they're there and they'll step up when they need to. But around that is this huge cloud in Southern Africa of incredible talent across Africa. I'm seeing this in the fields that I'm working in. We've got wisdom and insight and passion and experience and uniqueness and novelty. And we need to not take care of these people, give space to these people so that they can experience and connect and engage with the professional speaking world, because otherwise we're not letting the rest of the world experience the value of what is in Africa. And now I've just blown a virtual chapter to a whole continent. Why not?
Love it.
Okay. But what I would really recommend is just making that invitation out there, reaching people, saying, we don't know you, but on your LinkedIn profile, you say that you're a professional speaker or a motivational speaker. Come and visit us. Come and connect with us. Come and be part of the community. And if for any reason the virtual chapter doesn't work, there are lots of other ways to connect incredible people on this continent to other resources. So there's also the Virtual Speakers Association International, which could take care of the rest of Africa and all the other parts of the world where there isn't an association. There's projects that Bruce Wade and I work on in terms of Voices into Africa and Red Jacket speakers, but there's lots of ways for people to connect. And I just love to see this PSASA, the virtual chapter, just forming this kind of synchronous net of possibilities to the people on this continent that really, they need a place to play in, and they've got something that we need to hear. And that's what I'd love to see happen. And
Beautiful.
The virtual chapter has done that. There's some amazing things. So for the virtual chapter, we reached out to obviously various countries and speakers around there. And it was through the virtual chapter that I connected with Sitsi Matendi, who's Zimbabwean, but she spent time between Harare and Sandton. So I think she was part of the virtual chapter for a while, but then also the Johannesburg chapter. And then she became president of PSASA 2 or 3 presidents ago.
Yeah.
And not only was she an incredibly talented, amazing speaker, but she was our first president from outside of South Africa. And that is really significant. And that's what we need to do to make PSASA look legitimate, is to really be able to give voice and space to the people outside of this particular country, because we have amazing people.
That's it. So you've broadened it all. This is not about South Africa. This is about Southern Africa. This is about how virtually anybody can virtually join the virtual chapter. Well, I suppose so. Yeah. Yes, all in one. All in one. So we've covered a huge amount. Thank you so much for your time. It's greatly appreciated. I'm going to send this out onto the PSASA YouTube channel as well as within the community to really help spread the message of the value for what can be gained, not only from virtual chapter, but also from the PSASA itself. And so if anybody is watching this who goes, I don't know if this is for me, reach out to us. Join one of the virtual chapters. You're sitting in the comfort of your own home. If you've got any complaints about the catering, look in the mirror. But then you can actually, in an easy space, find out, is this tribe, is this community part of me? Can I find what I'm looking for in this? So it's a non-confrontational way. Charlotte Kemp, huge appreciation. Thank you for your past vision and your futurist vision of where we're actually are going.
Thank you, Tim. And I'd just like to finish by saying it is people like you that make the work that we've done in the past so meaningful, because when we do something, we want to know that that vision is passed on and taken care of going forward. And the virtual chapter was a long time coming, and just to see different people bring their own talents and skills into it is amazing. And so I want to thank you for your contribution of time and bringing your intelligence and your imagination, your experience to this year of leadership, and to everybody who is around you and comes after you. I just wish you all the very best, and thank you for your service too.
Great pleasure. Thank you very much, Charlotte.
Thank you, Tim.